working live. We're live.
Hey! How is everybody? Welcome to lots of lovely new members as well. We just had a little membership drive with the pre-Black Friday push. And so lots of new members. Thank you ever so much for everybody that's joining in. I have to apologise. I'm a little... my chest is a little congested. My ears, luckily, are unblocked. So I've just been listening. I can still hear high end beautifully. So there won't be any comments about high end. But yes, my lungs are a little congested. So I apologise for running a little late. There was a little confusion with the link. So, and of course we are a day late because we've been filming with Clay Blair. So I hope you're all doing marvellously well. It's been a wonderful 3 days over at Clay's, and we have been filming an Abbey Road course. And we've done a medley of songs. I'm sure you know the medley from Abbey Road. So it's been a lot of fun. So who have we got on board here? We have Kip, greetings and salutations. Alexi, hey Alexi. Well Blue PRS, hey there, how are you doing? Glad to see you here as well. Sheila, hey. Mark, Nate, Scott, Magnus, Chris Ebertson, thank you. Yes, we have been working a lot. It's okay, Nate. It's a blessing. But you can tell we've been working a lot because somebody here did not shave this morning. Me. I think this is the most unshaven I've ever done a video. Yeah, look at that. I'm like looking at myself in the thing going, whoa, that is bad. Well, it is what it is. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Mark. Hi, Lash Colt. Anita. Hello, Anita. Hey, Paul. Hey, Christian. Mark with a K. So I hope you're all doing marvellously well. It's going to be fun. Hey, Doug. I'm scrolling back up. Tony, Ken, Doug, Doug again. Let's see if there's anybody I'm missing here. Jay Jerry in Cleveland. Or you were saying hello to people in Cleveland. Hey, Chaz, Electric Owl Works. Don't think I'm missing anybody that said hello yet, but let's have a look. Grizzly Hewitt. Yes, a little bit like that. Have to be honest. Little grizzly. Anyway, I'm excited to get stuck in. Sorry for our delayed day late and us starting 45 minutes late this morning. Glad to see you all here. It's not usually for any new members like this. It's usually always 10:30 on a Friday morning, except when, of course, it's holidays. And, you know, but 99% of the time, it's 10:30 on a Friday morning. So, very excited. We've got a few more Whiskey Towns. Whiskey Towns? Wow. I just took Whiskey by Robert John and the Wreck, and also Steve Magora had a song with Whiskey in the title. And I took White Nose Town by The Gallery and made it Whiskey Town, which, of course, was Ryan Adams' first band. For anybody out there who's a bit of a trivia nut, or trivial as well, I suppose, could be rather pedantic. All right, so Mervyn, let's give it a listen. Before we do that, you can tell I'm a little out of sorts. Let's read what Mervyn said. Mervyn said, did my best to keep the energy with this track, mixed in Studio One with BXE channel, Wave Sound Toys, Boz Fab Filter, comments welcome. I'm trying to think. I'm not a big Fab Filter guy. But, you know, lots of you use it. So I know that the new Waves ones now have the same kind of look. You know, I've always been a little reluctant on Fab Filter on the EQs, only, and no disrespect to the sound of their EQs, only because I've always wanted to listen and not look. Because I know if you make decisions on things that look like they're boosted, you can be a little disingenuous, you know, because it makes you pull out frequencies that you think are you know, peaking, but what they could actually be doing is the inherent fundamental of a singer's voice. We've had this long discussion many, many times. I know we talked about the 5.1 version, the surround sound version of Night at the Opera, that whoever mixed it took out the 7, is this the, you know, this mid-range out of Freddie's voice and made him sound really almost wispy, and it's really strange to listen to. I don't know if many of you have heard that. But I'm sure that, you know, that was obviously an artistic decision, I would hope. But yeah, on a graph, if you looked at Freddie's voice, it's got mid-range, like poking its head out, like he had a powerful mid-range voice. But to pull that out, you're pulling out all the characteristics. So I like the sound of fab filters, don't get me wrong, but I've always been reluctant to look at things. I've always wanted to listen. But that doesn't mean it's not a helpful tool. It is. And I believe that's why Waves have now put it into their F-series EQs. Now they have the same graphic kind of look as well as the sound. Anyway, yeah, Darko says you can turn it on and off. Definitely. Definitely. Anyway, marvellous. Let's give Mervyn to listen. And I'm going to do a finger exercise.
Bring me back to the days of temporary tattoos and scraped knees. I'm lost in a dream. Can anybody out there hear my screams? 'Cause I've been yelling at the top of my lungs. Now I'm shooting out my loudest guns. If you could only hear the sound in this white noise town. I was born with my father's name, my mother's eyes, but we don't see the same. Yeah, what the want ain't what I need. Can anybody out there hear my screams? 'Cause I've been yelling at the top of my lungs. Now I'm shooting out my loudest guns. If you could only hear the sound in this white noise town. In this white noise town. No one hears her. Yeah, I've been yelling at the top of my lungs. Now I'm shooting out my loudest guns. If you could only hear the sound in this white noise town. Bring me back to the days, the temporary tattoos and scraped knees.
Cool. I love the intro here. I love how Mervyn ramped it up. Listen to this intro. It's really well done. It's really nice. So I think the main thing for me is actually it's a really great mix, and I love how it's not annihilated. I did turn it up a little bit for you, Anita. We've got a couple of mixes here that we're going to have to bring down quite considerably just to balance out. But anyway, the main thing for me is getting that kick to sit right. Sometimes it's really, really big. Have a listen.
Bring me back to the days of temporary tattoos and scraped knees. I'm lost in a dream.
For me, it needs to sit just a little bit more in those verses, just a tiny bit. It's also a little uneven. Sometimes it's like really big. I think what's happening is it's catching, and this is subtle, but the low end is catching the kick and the bass together, and it's just booming just a little bit too much.
Bring me back to the days of temporary tattoos and scraped knees.
It's a much lower volume in the right speaker.
My only guess is, are you hearing it like that?
Nope, I'm hearing it completely perfect.
My only guess is that the left, or that the right. There we go.
You know what? We're going to listen to it from the top again to give Mervyn the best possible results. Okay, so take 2. Here we go.
Tattoos and scraped knees. I'm lost in a dream. Can anybody out there hear my screams? 'Cause I've been yelling at the top of my lungs. Now I'm shooting up my loudest guns. If you could only hear the sound in this white noise town. My father's name, my mother's eyes, but we don't see the same. Yeah, what the want ain't what I need. Can anybody out there hear my screams? 'Cause I've been yelling at the top of my lungs. Now I'm shooting up my loudest guns. If you could only hear the sound in this white noise town. In this white noise town. No one hears her.
Pretty fantastic mix. I'm sure you're enjoying it more now in proper stereo, even size. No, it's really great. Like I say, it's what's so good about it is I'm just picking up on small things. And small things for me is just a slight unevenness with the kick and the bass, the relationship. And it's not that the low end's not really good. I think the kick is quite fantastic. There's just moments where especially the first time I listened through, and remember I was hearing it straight off here, so it was even. I didn't hear what you guys were hearing. But when I first listened through, I was just like, oh, I love the kick. Oh, it's a little loud. Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. Oh, it's a little loud. I think it's what we're talking about here is automation. It's that final step, and you know it's always a good thing. You know, those of you that have been here a while, and obviously for the fresh people coming in, you'll know if we're in this place where we're talking a lot about automation, it's a good sign. It means that we are really getting stuck in with like improving like a mix based on just volume automation alone, not worrying about like EQ stuff and compression, etc. It's a very open sounding mix. Generally, it just feels a little crowded at times. So I'm going to pop in to say the second chorus. Have a quick listen.
Mother's name, my mother's eyes, but we don't see the same. Yeah, what the one.
See there for me on that second verse, the kick is just a little bit too massive. Just a shade, just needs to duck in volume.
Mother's name, my mother's eyes, but we don't see the same. Yeah, what the one.
And there it disappears. You hear what I'm saying? It's just like subtle things. Listen to like the first half of this section and then hear it disappear.
Father's name, my mother's eyes, but we don't see the same. Yeah, what the one.
See there, the bass covers it.
What the one. Ain't
So it's just subtle things. It's just like, I think it just needs to be, I think it needs to come down in general in that section, but then be pushed up in little moments here and there. It's just a little loud when you do hear it, and then it needs to come up a little bit more. So it's real subtle things. Do I think parallel compression? No, I think it's, I don't have any issues with volume automation. I know that there is a sort of, I know we all like to try and fix things with like a, global stuff. And also we do try to look at mixes in global issues, because it's, generally speaking, fixing something globally and then doing the detail stuff is the icing on the cake. But I think globally this song sounds great. I don't think there's any particular compression or EQ I'd apply to this. I would literally say that the kick sounds great. I like how massive it is. I think it sounds really good and really full. But let's just automate and get in there and do detail work, and it will take it over the edge. Otherwise, absolutely wonderful. It gets a little crowded at the end, which is exciting. I love how it goes to the width there. Really nice work coming in. It's something that we talk about a lot. If you're new here or you haven't heard us talk about this, we advocate, not always LCR, but in a lot of like rock stuff, LCR works great, especially in choruses, to just define a chorus getting wide and big. But in verses, especially if you're down to one or two instruments with bass and drums, so like a single guitar or a single piano part or something like that, you might want to go 30, 40, 50% either side of the center. And then when the chorus comes in, you've got double guitars, you'll go LCR, like full left, full right. Well, for you, looking the opposite way, full right, full left. And that's what Mervyn's done really nicely here. The other thing I will say is like it's really vocal centric there, which is nice because it is. It's a nice melody. It's a good sing along. It's a potential single. I don't think they ever put it out as a single. I think the single was the other track that we worked on, Young and Restless. But this could have been a single easily. But I think it needs to be fuller on the guitars there at the very, very end. They're there giving energy because it's a very pop mix. But if it was to be a little bit more rock, I'd bring up the left and right guitars. Have a listen. Yeah, Chris is talking about passing the kick a little bit. Yeah, maybe. I'm not hearing like an excessive amount of like super, super lows. The good thing about these blues is they're a little boosted in the very, very lows, and my ears got used to them. But I can always hear when it's a little excessive because there's a little boost on this and it can blow it up quite a lot. There's a little lump at the bottom. I'm not hearing it being completely blown up. I'm hearing more of a volume thing going on. I think there's enough room there for a mastering engineer to sort of carve out what they wanted nicely. I will say I want those guitars to just be a little louder when they're wide. And like Anita was saying, the backgrounds can get a little overpowering in the chorus. It's tough with that, whoa! It's nice, but I think I would maybe bring it down to dB and maybe add a little bit more air on it. Just a bit more high mid, so it doesn't have to be as loud. So it could be, whoa, more of this, and then it wouldn't have to be as loud and a bit more of a feeling. I just think with the whoa, that mid-range, it takes my ear a little bit too much. I'm concentrating on it a bit too much. So very often, and I know we've talked about this in the past as well, but very often it's not always about the volume as much as it is about the frequency selection. We all know if you take something and make it a very narrow telephone mid-rangey sound, it doesn't have to be loud to be heard. Because it's now down to this fundamental mid-range where your ears are super sensitive. And I wouldn't say necessarily the wow has to go full telephone, but I think it needs to go closer to that. So it's a bit more of a felt kind of thing that sticks its head out rather than as full a sound as it is. But on the whole, it's a really great mix, and it's great You hear me say it all the time, but I'll repeat myself. It's great when we get into details. It means that there's some really great stuff going on. All right, next up is Andy Tullis, otherwise known as Country T, for those of you that see his comments on YouTube. And Andy says, hello, Warren, Eric, and all the wonderful plappers. So it's me again, this time with Day Drunk in Reno. Well, I know you like country, so I'm excited to see what you do. This song rings straight to my heart. Well, there you go. Has everything that this country dude likes. The instruments and the vocals are so well recorded that there is much to do. I just adjust EQs to help everything find its own place. I put together a list of plugins I use, HDU Octavas, CLA guitars, CLA Unplugged, DS, TrueVerb, Gate, GW Voice Centric, Abbey Road Chambers, Vocal Rider. So I didn't add any effects, keys, or small thing I did between markers 59 through 73. I turned off the limiter, I had a stereo out. I was squishing everything together. When I turned it off, during that section, it seems to open everything up. Okay, not sure if that's correct. If it works, then it's correct. I mean, sometimes what I advocate is, you know, you can turn the limiter on and off if you like, or you could just move the threshold up. I'll do that a lot. If the chorus is coming in and it's slamming, and suddenly you've gone from 1 to 2 dB or 3 maximum, you know, to 5 to 6, and you're starting to hear it sort of get smaller, you know, just kind of duck down too much, then just raise the threshold. Let it breathe a little bit more. And if it starts to output a little bit more, turn the output down. You know, it's like, it's a good idea to keep the amount of compression and limiting the same all the time. I mean, it's considerably easier to get mixes louder now through digital automation, you know, because of those things. Louder, but not necessarily destroyed. All right, here we go with Andy Tullis, Day Drunk in Reno.
I'm dead drunk in Reno, trying to let it all go. My heart left in the dealer's arms, and I'm dead drunk in Reno. I'm dead drunk in Reno. You always love a game when you're winning, but you never get enough if your heart's not in it. Some things you let it ride, and she was no different. Oh, she burned like whiskey on my lips. I can still taste the sweetness of that kiss. It's a fire I'll always miss. She's gone. And I'm dead drunk in Reno, trying to let it all go. 'Cause the queen of my heart left in the dealer's arms, and I'm dead drunk in Reno. I'm dead drunk in Reno. Love is a game that I always lose. She was holding trip threes, I had a pair of twos. I always played too close to the chest, and she was no different. No matter how you spin it, the house is always winning. Dead drunk in Reno, trying to let it all go. 'Cause the queen of my heart left in the dealer's arms, and I'm dead drunk in Reno. Yeah. I'm dead drunk in Reno. Yes, I am. Dead drunk in Reno, I'm trying to let it all go. Dead drunk in Reno, trying to let it all go. 'Cause the queen of my heart left in the dealer's arms, and I'm dead drunk in Reno. I'm dead drunk in Reno. Dead drunk in Reno. I'm dead drunk, dead drunk. Dead drunk in Reno.
Pretty fantastic. I've been reading a couple of the comments going by. Yeah, the snare is excellent. I agree, Nate. Drums are very natural sounding. The kick's got a little bit of bite on it, but not too much that it sounds out of place for a more traditional country song that this is. This is a really good one for you, Andy. I can tell. I mean, we've heard a few more of your mixes in the past, but I can tell that you connected to this and you really spent some time on this. I agree with a couple of the comments. There's a little bit of times the vocal's like absolutely perfect. And there's other times I just want to take a word or two or a bit of a phrase and push it up. There's never a point where the vocal's lost in the mix, ever. It's not like, oh, I didn't hear what he said. It's just more about like, you know, getting that vocal to just sit beautifully on top consistently. And getting back to, you know, Tom's comment about parallel or using compression to do that, I would do this with automation. I think you're in an automated place here. And then I think just moments, like at the end, there's a really beautiful, line on the pedal steel.
I'm trying to let it all go. Get drunk in Reno.
I'm like, I wanted that to be between, all the stuff between the vocal, I wanted it to be almost a call and response. I mean, it's there, but to me it should be, you know, it would add a really nice thing to it. What I feel like is the mix is sonically really, really good. Everything is chosen really well. You've got great tones, you've got EQ and compression going on, but it's a little undynamic for me. You are letting the drummer and the bass player dictate it, and that's fantastic. But now I want some ear candy. Now I want some fun stuff to happen around it. Otherwise, it's a little bit too linear for me. I think you can really, really have some fun doing automation. Keep listening a bit.
I'm trying to let it all go. Get drunk in Reno. Trying to let it all go. The queen of my heart left in the dealer's arms. I'm dead drunk in Reno. I'm dead drunk in Reno. Dead drunk in Reno. I'm dead drunk, dead drunk. Dead drunk in Reno.
And it's nice, and the horns are nice there. They could definitely come up. Let me go back to the beginning. I want to listen to something just here at the very top.
I'm dead drunk in Reno.
I think that right-hand side can come up.
I'm dead drunk in Reno.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's a great mix. I think what you've got is you've got the foundations of the mix really spot on. Now what I want you to do is to like take a deep breath, stand back from it, listen to it at a low level, just let it wash over you and go, okay, how can I make this like super exciting? What can I feature? It seems like, you know, there's some featuring going on of maybe just some of those like raked chords, which is okay. But I don't want the rake chord to be louder than a really beautiful little lead part. So I think you've got everything there. Now it's about balancing, adding excitement, adding automation, and making it really, really interesting to listen to. But it's a great bed to build from. It's a really great foundation. You know, as you know, a lot of the time we get stuck on conversations about the low end, about sorting out kick and bass guitar relationships. And on this one, you know, so far, that's not been a problem. We've had, obviously on the first song, we've talked about the kick needing to come down in certain sections and come up in others, but the relationship between the kick and the bass has been really, really nice. And I think the same thing there with you, with Andy. So, Andy, with you. So it's a really solid place. Great work. Really, really great work. And if you guys and girls haven't mixed that song, please do. It's really fantastic. Oh, I see we have a couple of fun songs coming on. This one here. All right, Excess. Haven't submitted anything in a while. Here's my mix of Mary Spender's Someone Better. Currently working on all parallel processing based on Andrew Shep's template. Like the song, tried to put my own little spice in it, sorry. Hope you'll like it. I'm excited to hear. Here we go.
Some might say I overshare, like a winter love affair. I was excited, I was wrong. Did you know it wouldn't last long? Someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. I guess I should end this one. I secretly hope that she hears this. Does she know you were fearless? You jumped right in, met me there. When did she make you so scared? Someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. Ooh, someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. It must have driven her insane to see you happier. When did I sign up for this game so triangular? You, me, her, running back and forth, the rules all hers. Who came off worse? She drove me insane. You drove me insane. Someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. Ooh, someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. Someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. I guess I should end this one.
Bravo, really, really nice. I only have minor stuff. I actually really love that. I love the relationship on the vocals. I love the warmth on the vocals, what you've maintained in her vocal. It's really good. I think you nailed it. I think you did a fantastic job. So for me, it's just the bass guitar is like, and there was a couple of people, like Kip was mentioning, you know, God bless 5-string basses. Yes, there's always those low notes which are just like, you're wrestling with to make them fit so you can still have the oomph on the kick. I felt like it was a little tiny bit like sometimes the low was a little out of control on the bass, and then other times I wish just subtly there was a little bit more lows on the kick. And it's a tough one because it was a small little drum kit played with I think it was hot rods, you know, and a 5-string bass, like very twisted sort of like logic, but it really is rather beautiful. I mean, the whole mix needs a little bit of taming on some of those transients. If you have a listen around here.
Someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting.
You know, it feels like the thump of the kick is, you know, about 100-ish, not quite as low as I normally would go. But let's grab an L2 here, for instance, just for schnizzle. So I'm not going to bring down the threshold without also bringing down the ceiling. So what I'm going to do is grab it here.
Someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting.
You see it's picking up about 2 to 3 dB of just a kick.
Someone better, better come along.
once it's doing that, now what's happening is like I feel like if there was more low-lows on the kick, it wouldn't need to be as loud. So what's happening there is like I've brought it down so it's the kick hits are more in keeping with the volume on the bass, or the volume of the rest of the track, more importantly. But now it feels like, oh, where's the kick gone? So I think what's happened is the choice, and I know it's tough. It's got a lot to do with the fact that that kick drum probably doesn't have anything around about 40 hertz down there. You know what I mean? So I think if we were now to grab an EQ, let's grab something really generic like an REQ, and let's choose 40 here just for the schnizzle of it, and then go to like 20 here. So have a listen to this.
Someone better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better worthy of song. Someone better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better come along. I'll be waiting.
It's a little better. I don't want to get more aggressive with that, because if I start trying to get like 40 to 60, if we come up a little bit further, the problem is if we come up to 60 here, we're going to start pulling up that low note on the bass. Now, I would never advocate trying to fix it on a master bus like this. This is just an illustration of what I would probably doing a little bit more in the mix. It's just trying to find a little bit more lows. Even if you're triggering a sub really lightly under the kick, just a little bit of just a tiny bit. And again, it's a problem with the fact that the kick drum was this big, and the guy and the bass player Jamie is playing a 5-string bass. I mean, that's the reality.
Someone better come along. I'll be waiting.
Yeah, just trying to boost that the 60 like crazy is bringing up too much bass. So subtle things. So yeah, I would get in there. And just see if you can just get a little bit more thump underneath on the kick, and control the bass. Now sometimes you know, a multiband compressor or a dynamic EQ, just when it gets a little boomy. Again, let's be honest, this is very subtle. This is a really, really nicely done mix. Really, really good. Darren here is saying, just started to mix this one. I decided to use Wave's Submarine plugin to add some subs on the kick. There you go. So I'm lucky where if I mix this through the console, I could use the DBX 120A. But I think, yes, if there's the Submarine there, I think that would do it. But this is super, super close. This is a really, really great mix. And I think we have to talk about, like, it's fantastic that we can get into this kind of detail. The vocal sound is fantastic. The electric guitar sound is really, really good. And on the whole, the rest of the kit sounds amazing. And it's nice to be able to play back songs and listen to subtle things like this and use them as great discussion points to help us all improve our stuff. So great work, XS. Thank you ever so much for doing that. Great to have another mix of you in here. Next up is Sean. Sean says, hey, Plap peeps, here's my mix of Wasting Away. Really cool song. I found this harder to mix than I first thought. There are lots of tracks to choose from, particularly regarding the drum samples. I wasn't sure if they're all supposed to be in the mix or not. Just a taste. I always give you far more than you ever need. Well, not always, but often. Eventually, I simply decided to use what I wanted, exactly, and muted the rest. If anyone else mixed the song could shed some light on the track count, I'd love to hear. Now, I think you answered your own question. Any and all feedback is most certainly welcome. Thank you for listening, Sean. Wonderful. I'm now messaging inside of the Academy. See you on the live stream. They'll get that, and then 20 seconds later they'll see it here. Is this really you? Yeah, it's really not Eric, yes. All right. Here we go. Next up is Sean's Wasting Away.
Here but a moment just as quickly you were gone. So sad to think that nothing lasts forever. Not a day goes by I don't question why. I'll never understand. And I'm wasting away without you. When you left, took everything, you never said goodbye. I'm wasting away without you. Get my mind off these things, whatever it takes to fill the space. Starting to question my faith. Can you hear me? Are you even out there? For so long, for me to carry on, I lost other half of my heart. Now I try to live for today. On a dime, your whole life can change. Now who will be there to catch me when I fall? 'Cause nothing's the same without you. When you left, took everything, you never said goodbye. I'm wasting away without you. I know you want this for me, perfect in your eyes. Candles burning for you and the flame will never die. I don't know where I'm going, maybe I'm black and blind. Be there to guide me, I want you. It's getting quiet, finding peace finally. I can say time's been a good friend to me. Buried my pain so deep, couldn't get through to me. I don't wanna live with your ghost, wanna live with your memory. When you left, took everything, you never said goodbye. And now I'm braving the day without you. Not the end, I won't forget. The rain will soon subside, and I'm making my way without you. I know you want this for me, perfect in your eyes. Candles burning for you and the flame will never die. I don't know where I'm going, maybe I'm black and blind. Be there to guide me, I want you.
Okay, so fantastic mix. I think it's exciting because of all the high mid and all of the aggression in the high mids. But as everybody's pointing out, and it's probably obvious if to those of you listening in your own environments, if you know them really well, there's a lot of lack of not just low end, but initially low mids. When this comes in, this first chorus, because you're not sure what quite to expect. Because the vocal initially is really nice, that it's kind of like, I like it in the very first half of the first verse, because it's breathy and it's removed the low mids. But I was anticipating and hoping that that would return to the vocal as it got fuller. But have a listen here.
Here but a moment, just as
That's beautiful. But, however, when this happens,
not a day goes by I don't question why.
I'm thinking, I wish I had a little bit more fullness, but I'm still giving it the benefit of the doubt. A little bit more fullness. But then this happened when it came in here.
Are you? When you left, took
And it's like that's when I actually turned it down to 1.3 dB because the high mids were so like aggressive. I think actually, you know, I wonder if it's the room and the speakers in the room, but predominantly the room or the headphones that are affecting how Sean's hearing it. Because if you could take it into Sean, if you can take it into a different environment, or most importantly, if you listen to these other mixes where we're complementing the low end, see how your mix sounds against it in your environment. And if those mixes sound too boomy, it will give you an idea that your room has got a lot of low end and a lot of low mids. Because it's not just the low end, it's the mids. I mean, if you see here, listen here. It's all high mids. So if I was to grab, you know, our good friend, an REQ. We don't need a frequency analyzer to know this. This is quite straightforward stuff. But if we grab an EQ here, it's really a case of like, see the 350 area. Where I'm always cutting that, it sounds like there's none of it in there. So it's almost like I want to do obvious things like do this, but really broad. So that's really, really super generic stuff, but you can see everything that's, or you can hear, more importantly, you can hear everything that's been cut out a little bit too drastically. Now, that's me putting like a sledgehammer, you know, to hit in a tiny little nail. That's not the way to do it. Master bus or mastering, you know, putting this on your master bus or having a mastering engineer do it will make it better, but you need to get into the individual elements. It's why I'm always, you know, don't like the top-down mixing with like 7 plugins across the master bus. It doesn't really help you understand. You need to get those elements great going into the master bus, and then you don't need to do that much on the master bus. And a great mastering engineer will tell you they're doing like minimal amounts of stuff and getting in there and just doing detail work where necessary. It's not their job. I mean, it can be, obviously, but it's not their job to fix a mix, it's to enhance a mix. So I think it's the listening environment. I think there's a lot of really good decisions being made on volumes and excitement, and the guitars come in loud and aggressive. All of that I love. You know, there's some really good decisions being made, but I feel like probably Sean's environment is not allowing him in the room, or the speakers combined in the room, the two things, with the room being the predominant issue, is probably very boomy and got a lot of low mids and low end in that room. Therefore, all the headphones he's using, therefore giving him a full sense of reality. So I would definitely take mixes that we all know to be great. Even probably best of all, this actual session here. Go back and rewatch this session, because if you're hearing us talk and reading the comments there about different mixes and about the low end issues, or where it's great and where it's not, could be slightly better, go back and listen to that now that you've had educated discussion on it, and see if that still works for you. Where we're saying, oh, there could be a little bit more low end and it's really close. Does it feel like too much? Because sometimes the problem with reference mixes is that you may not trust the reference mix. You know, you may get used to something in a room. So I definitely think it's a combination of everything. Using reference mixes, using mixes that you've done before and have been approved by a client will give you a good starting base from. One that somebody loves, go back and go, oh, what did they love about that? That's not a problem. When I mix albums, once we've got a song approved, we'll go back and use it as a reference point and try and match it and eventually beat it every single song. Often I'll mix the first song on an album, and then by song 6, I've already mixed that first song 2 or 3 times more. I'll find something and improve it and tweak it and tweak it and tweak it, and then apply all those ideas to more songs, depending on whether the drums are recorded in one sitting or whatever. You know, you learn stuff about the artist and about the album as you go through the process. So I would definitely say reference mixes, yes, but reference mixes of your own ones that are successful, and come back to this session where you hear us educatedly talking about low end and see how it feels in your room or on your headphones. And don't be afraid to obviously check in loads of different environments. And also, you know, was there anybody helping in here with Sean, like having discussions of the song? Because that's another thing, you know, to put them up in the forum and have everybody interact with each other, which is a fantastic thing if you're new, that everybody does here. It's absolutely amazing. But I like what Sean's doing on the excitement level. I think he's really, you know, went for it on the guitars and made this super exciting. I think it's time that Eric told a joke. Eric, you got one prepared? Do you have an Eric joke ready to go?
I don't have one ready, but I can get one.
You don't have one ready? You don't have an Eric joke ready? Oh, he's looking one up now as we speak. An Eric joke.
Well, just got the camera audio up. Whoop. Let's see. Eric joke. Eric joke. This is like intermission. Break time. Eric segment. Oh, that's weird. Hello, everyone. AJ's like, oh no.
Oh no. I'm gonna blow my nose. Nothing glamorous.
Let's see. Let me go to my special. Oh, there you go. My joke section. Ooh. Maybe I've said this one before. What's Forrest Gump's password? Anyone? I'll give that a sec. A moment with Eric. Halftime, yes. Yeah, Rich, my jokes are all basically dad jokes. Not that I am one, but dad jokes just tend to be the my favorite. Oh yeah, Peter, I need my phone for that. I literally have a section where I just have. Here, watch. Maybe. I think you can see that. So that's the start of my section, and each gap is a little, you know, separates the jokes, and boom, and boom. Oh no, that's about it. But yeah, you can see it's an ever-growing list. But anyways, what's Forrest Gump's password? It's 1 Forrest 1. 1 Forrest 1. Yes.
So bad. One more.
Alright. Oh, I could go all day with this, guys. Let's see. By the way, has anyone gone to Bubblegum Shrimp, the restaurant? It's actually pretty cool. And they have Forrest Gump trivia, just randomly, and I guess whoever gets the most questions right ends up getting something. I don't know. I only got maybe 2 questions right. I need to see that movie a little more. Another question. Here's a coffee one. How did the hipster burn his mouth? He sipped his coffee before it was cool. Just a bunch of face palms. AJ's like, no, please. What? They have one in New York City? Don't quit your day job. Yeah. Well, Blue PRS, welcome, first time. Heck yeah. Hey, Sheila. This is the time where everyone should go get a refill on your coffee and avoid all these jokes. Oh, I will be sticking to my day job. I don't think the jokes are cutting it. Especially all these sad faces are coming up. Alright, one more. What is the saddest cheese? Provolone. Tough crowd. Tough crowd. What's up, Mark?
Yes, he really did say
Alone.
alone.
It is.
It really happened.
It is the
He
saddest
really
cheese.
did say alone. You may have thought that you dreamt it, but you didn't. That really was his joke. That was rather good. Thank you for the intermission. We need to have some music. Oh needs its own walk-on music. don't they have that in? I think there's a little podcaster version of that that thing there, made by Rode, and they have a like little music bits you can play. So it should be fun. Jörg is in the public chat room. I don't see Jörg. Are you on the in the live feed as well? Safe all whiskey. Okay, tea time and a piece of cake. Well, I'm drinking coffee. I've already had a couple. I've had 2 cups of PG Tips, and now I'm on my coffee. AJ says he blames me for your for what it's worth. The Blue Well PRS, not Blue Bloopers. No, I guessed it was Blue Well PRS, and I am playing my PRS. And by the way, in case you didn't know, didn't guess, this is the guitar. This is the one that Mary played. I got it. I got the guitar. I feel like Remington Steele. Not Remington Steele. What was it? Remington. You remember the guy used to do the... I was so impressed with the shavers that I bought the company. That was me. So impressed with the guitar, I bought the guitar. But it is a pretty amazing guitar. It's just there's something about it which is great. It just plays great. It's got F-holes. It's like a little jazzy, but also kind of bluesy. It's got some really interesting pickups on it. A little left of center. This beautiful bridge. You know, Phil McKnight really loved it as well. And if you don't watch his channel, watch it. He's the bee's knees. The guy's a great guy. Oh, getting back to Mary a second. For those of you that have already worked on her song. How many people from the UK here? How many of you are in the UK? Do you know why I love working with Mary? Who is the artist that she most reminds me of? And I'm giving you a clue. I'm saying in the UK. A classic artist. I heard a lot of people saying 90s, and I was like, no, definitely not the 90s. I'll give you more clues. Think 70s. 70s through mid-80s. Really big star in the UK. Huge fan of a couple of her albums. All right, more clues. Glyn Johns made records with her. Anybody? Okay, Simon, do you know T. Hay? Do you know why I love working with Mary and who she reminds me of? Who does she remind me of? That she plays guitar. She's a really great guitar player. She's got a really interesting voice. She likes playing with really good musicians. Like really good musicians play on her records. We're going to do some more recording when she comes over for NAMM. Girl, singer, UK. I'm thinking all the UK people. 70s through mid-80s. It's like I'm not trying to test you. I'm just seeing if anybody else picked up on this as well. Yeah, soul. She has some soul. Yes, Andrew Burnham. Go, Andrew. Go, Andrew. Go, Andrew. I'm going to, this will, yes. That's it. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. That's exactly what I love about her. Yeah, it's just that most people in America don't know who Joan Armatrading is. So, yay! I don't know if she had US hits or not. I don't know if she had any US hits. Yeah, it's Joan Armatrading. She really reminds me of that. That same kind of like, you know, listens to, it's got a little jazzy, a little folky, you know, musician based. But yeah, good job. Nice work, Andrew. Okay, let's get back to the rock and roll. Although it's Mary's song, so the Joan Armatrading-y kind of stuff. Still crazy that I haven't shaved today. Here's a mix of Mary's song, Someone Better Comes Along. The song and recording sound great. I really like Mary's vocals on this. I felt like the end could use a bit of a lift, so I added some gentle master automation from the bridge to the end. Lovely. If anyone has some tips on other techniques to help the song grow in the mix, I'd really appreciate the pointers. Any feedback and advice would be most appreciated. Okay, well, this is mixed on headphones. Actually, that's a really good thing. Because we've been having these discussions about room environments and stuff like that. Feel free, if you can or you remember, to put down your environment. Are you mixing on speakers? Are you mixing in headphones? Because it will definitely help the discussion and help to improve stuff. Yeah. Oh, Joan had a cult. Yeah, I'm sure she had a cult following in the. Yeah, I mean, Love and Affection and Willow. Willow was a top 5 single. It was in the top 5. I feel like it may have been a #1 single. It was definitely top 5. Love and Affection. What a record! What a record! Go buy it. Glyn Johns, best musicians around, playing on it. She had God, who played guitar on that? You remember that song? Bone down it, down 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 down. I'm the big. Oh, I can't remember the name of the track. It's so good. And so when I heard Mary, I was like, that's the record we need to make. Obviously, in 2 hours with building a studio in a showroom at Thoman, we didn't quite have the time to do that. But that's the record I want to make. I want to make that album with her because she's that kind of artist. All right. Listening to Chris W. Someone Better Comes Along.
Some might say I overshare like a winter love affair. I was excited, I was wrong. Did you know it wouldn't last long? Someone better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better worthy of a song. I guess I should end this one. I secretly hope that she hears this. Does she know you were fearless? You jumped right in, met me there. When did she make you so scared? Someone better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better worthy of a song. Ooh, someone better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better worthy of a sign up for this game so triangular. You, me, her, running back and forth, the rules all hurt. Who came off worse? She drove me insane. You drove me insane. Someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. Ooh, someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. Someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. I guess I should end this one.
Nice work, Chris. Very nice. Yeah, there's a lot of great positives from that. I agree with quite a few comments I saw, and fundamentally, probably the most important thing about this mix and about any mixing, vocals tone is really good. Wonderful work on the vocals. Really impressed. Yeah, that's kind of the number one thing here. The vocals sound fantastic. Now, I think Anita was probably talking about some imbalance on the right. It sounds like it and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but it sounds like maybe the overhead on the drums is a little hot on one side because the snare, which obviously is played with brushes or a hot rod, I can't remember now. I have to go back and watch the video, but not straight ahead like slamming it, you know, obviously with a stick. It feels like it's getting more of the overhead, so it's being pulled to one side. That happens a lot, you know, where maybe the snare top mic is a little low and the overheads are there to add some ambience and some complete wholeness of the kit. The problem is, of course, is that I do it all the time as well, is I'll position my overhead, this is from the drummer's perspective, so imagine you're behind the drum kit, over the crash cymbal on the left and the hi-hat, and then of course I'm split over to the right here with the ride and the crash cymbal on the right. So you end up with this triangle. You can measure it in phase, so the snare in theory should be you know, in the center. Yes, it can be in the center, but of course it can also be, you know, considerably louder depending on you know, mitigating circumstances, other mitigating circumstances, i.e., you know, reflections off of cymbals and stuff like that. Generally speaking, if it's in phase, it should be nicely centered and just as loud because it's hearing it an equal distance away. But nothing is ever perfect. And of course, in this scenario, as AJ was talking about, because obviously in the UK, we don't call it stores, we don't go music store, we call it a music shop. Yes, in this music shop, the showroom was the studio, and we had 2 hours. And when we turned up, I think we turned up before them, which is fine. They were really busy, and you know the guy that's selling the recording gear had to create a studio for us and bring in microphones and stands and stuff in the 2 hours, and we had to record the song, and everybody had to learn it. But that was kind of fun. Actually, it wasn't kind of fun, it was a lot of fun because it forces you to think on your feet and do something great. It was really, you know, rather wonderful. So I think that if you could rebalance that snare, that would be amazing. A bit more low-lows on the kick would be great too. The other idea would be, and I've thought about this on other people's mixes as well, is if you do want this to feel like a small kit, which is completely understandable, maybe create its own small room so it fits back a little bit, sits back a little bit, fits and sits back, and just feels like it may be its own entity. Because in Chris's mix here, he's got the vocals super dry and the electric super dry, and the bass tone's great, but maybe the drums could have a little bit of room on them, like a short, medium reverb room, you know, 3/4 of a second or less. Maybe try half a second at first and just put a bit of verb on it so it has maybe like a little drum kit sitting back. That could be really nice in this mix, allowing everything else to be super, super dry. And it's great to see this kind of creativity and this sort of focus, and it allows us a great discussion. Once again, like we went to at the beginning and everybody's talking about, this is a really, really great sounding vocal. You know, really, really good. Okay, so this one I've already listened to when we first put up by Priet, because it was quite loud, so it might have to come down a little bit more. Okay. And Priet says, hello, good people. I prepared my first mix for Feedback Friday. Best regards. Thank you ever so much. I'm going to bring it down another dB, and if it seems low, another dB and a half. If it seems low, I'll bring it back up again. Great work. Really good work, Chris.
Tattoos and scraped knees. I'm lost in a dream. Can anybody out there hear my screams? 'Cause I've been yelling at the top of my lungs. Now I'm shooting out my loudest guns. If you could only hear the sound in this white noise sound. Father's name, my mother's eyes, but we don't see the same. Get what the want, ain't what I need. Can anybody out there hear my screams? 'Cause I've been yelling at the top of my lungs. Now I'm shooting out my loudest guns. If you could only hear the sound in this white noise town. In this white noise town. No one hears us.
Great work for your first mix here, Priet. Great to have you here. I love the approach. The approach is maximum excitement, everything like high mids, like aggressive. They are, I mean, this is about 3 years ago, I think we did this album. I think it's about 3 years old. And they're probably only now like mid-late 20s. So they were young guys. Well, I think the brother's like 5 years older. But the singer was probably like 22, 23 years old when he did this. So they're young guys, and it's definitely important to make them sound edgy. And there's some conversation here about compression, and I agree, it's definitely like hit hard. I think the main thing for me is the high mids are very, yes, they're compressed, but there's a little extra kind of crunch on them. Now, I'm not sure if that's just through going through being hit several times, or whether it's added deliberately in saturation, which is not a bad thing. I just think whatever is causing that high mid kind of crunchiness, just to back it off just a little bit. Like it's all bottom snare there, and it's like super, you can hear the bottom snare more than the top. It's, we'll go back a little bit further. You hear it there? See, it's yes, it definitely sounds like there's a lot of compression on there, but it's also important to sort of realise that everything leading up to there, like this is not hitting the master bus compression at all, but have a listen. It's like, you hear that? That 3, 4, 5 going on. Maybe even as low as a little bit of 2 in there, but it's already the sounds getting to the master bus compressor. It's definitely being compressed aggressively. You know, you can see that, quite frankly, let alone hear it. It doesn't, you know, take none of us have to be rocket scientists to understand about the dynamic range just by looking at that file, let alone listening to it. But sonically, there's a lot of emphasis on the high mids, which is really good for excitement, and I get it, and I applaud that, because that's how you make mixes sound exciting. But it seems like there's an overemphasis on high mids across lots of different instruments right from the get-go. There sounds like tape compression. Yeah, I mean, it could be a tape compressor. Although typically, at least with my tape machine, my A80, when I hit it hard, the low end gets massive. So, you know, I'd be interested to see what tape compressor was doing that. But yeah, like a little, it needs a back off of the high mids and a readjustment. So what I would do, Priyat, is I would take the snare top and bring that up, bring down the, the bottom snare, and then just kind of look everywhere. Maybe you've been boosting 3 to 5K area. Drop that a little bit. If you're using saturation plugins or tape plugins, just back them off a little bit. Now, I'm not talking about like going from like, you know, bringing it back 50% or whatever, just gradually, because it feels globally, could be on the master bus, could be on buses leading up to it, but just globally bring it back, little less 3 to 5K, little less 3 to 5K in different areas, little less high mid boost on instruments, little less saturation, little less. If you do it globally, incrementally, across everything, it will open up massively. But let's be honest, it's a very exciting mix, and I think that's something that we have to remember. If you want excitement, you've got to work on that edge of just things starting to get gritty and saturate, that edge of just things like exploding a little bit. That's what makes things great. So, you know, it's always a little bit of a battle. It's never about like trying to get the perfectly mixed, you know, thing where everything's like almost like a put together like building blocks. No, you need blurring of the edges. You need that saturation. You need that lo-finess. So, great first mix. Thank you, Priyat. Great to have you in here. And if there's any other new members here, wonderful to see you. Typically, we do these on Fridays. We're only doing this on a Saturday because we just filmed a 3-day course with Clay Blair doing some songs from Abbey Road, which is going to be a lot of fun. Coming out soon, so watch out for that. And we are actually interviewing an Abbey Road engineer soon. Coming soon. Okay, it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, next up is Daniel DeVost. Daniel says, have not had time to submit for Feedback Friday in almost a year. Glad to be able to submit my mix of Only Women Bleed. Gosh, what a pleasure this was to mix. Amazed at how little bleed there was on the lead vocals. Yeah, it's pretty amazing because that was live with a 58. Which also shows why a 58's a good vocal mic, you know, regardless of frequency response. It's a pretty darn good mic. I was able to be just as aggressive with compression as I normally would on studio material. No drum samples here. I could not bring myself to do that to Danny. Haha. I know, he's a pretty amazing drummer. All right, sit back and enjoy this one. This one is 7 minutes and 16 seconds long. All right, here we go. Only Women Bleed. For those of you that are new here, this is Dick Wagner's song that he wrote, and then he rewrote the lyrics with Alice Cooper. This was a #1 hit single for Alice Cooper. This is a live version of the song. This has Danny from, oh God, I'm blanking, Chicago playing drums. Brad Whitford is playing guitar from Aerosmith. The girl singer is called Wednesday, and there's a couple of other really famous people playing on it. I'm blanking. Completely blanking. But lots of really well-known musicians, and this is a live concert that was done in Dick's honor after he died, and all the money went to children's charity. And if you do want to buy this course, all of the profits, been in profit since like the second day. So basically, how can I explain this? there are, every time somebody buys the course, I think it's $37 or whatever, all the money goes to charity, and it goes to St Jude's Children's Research Hospital. That was close to Dick's heart, and that's why he did it. So, could you put up a link to that course for anybody who's interested?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Man's got his woman to take his seat. He's got the power, she's got the need. She spends her life through pleasing up her man. She feeds him dinner or anything she can. She cries alone at night too often. He smokes and drinks and don't come home at all. Only women bleed. 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 Man makes your hair gray. He's your life's mistake. When all you're really looking for isn't even brave. He lies right at you. You know you hate this game. He slaps you once in a while and you live and love with him. She cries alone at night too often.
Yay, fantastic. It was quite emotional listening to that. Dick Wagner was a really lovely guy, and we became friends just for the last few years of his life. I met him through Jack Douglas. Those of you that aren't familiar with Dick Wagner and why, you know, why so many people are huge fans of his is like, yes, he wrote like lots of hit singles that you know, especially lots of stuff for Alice Cooper, because he is the guitar player, one of the two guitar players with Steve Hunter, pretty much on most of the 70s American rock. If it came from New York and it had a session guitarist on it, it was usually Dick Wagner and Steve Hunter. They played on pretty much everything. I mean, they played on Peter Gabriel's first solo record, for instance, let alone Aerosmith. Yep, they played on Aerosmith records. Dick is quite a few famous guitar riffs of Aerosmith. One in particular I can think of, for those of you that are aficionados. Just a really, really great guy. And he was part of Alice Cooper's band, obviously on Welcome to My Nightmare, and co-wrote the whole album. He was in a band in the 60s called The Frost. He was the lead singer and the guitar player of The Frost. It was really wonderful. So that's a wonderful mix. It's interesting because, you know, I plenty of time after 7 minutes to absorb it. I really like the fact that you didn't use any drum samples. You kept the overall feel of the drums far more natural than I did. And what is interesting is like it washes over me and it makes me feel like, well, this is an interpretation that works. And I think this is a big discussion, is like, do you do something that sounds more of the time, like a 70s rock band, 70s rock stars, which is what all of these guys, and with the exception of the girl singer, who I think is probably a good 20 or 30 years younger than everybody else. But everybody else in that band has had massive hit songs all the way from, you know, the 70s on. Do you keep that integrity like Daniel's done here, or do you do a more modern mix? It's very interesting. Mine was a combination of both. I went more modern. I added some samples to the drums where it was a little weak. I probably compressed it a little harder, hit it a little harder. I mixed it hybrid, like in the box, through the console. Daniel has gone for a lot more natural sounding live, lots of verb all over the place. He's kept the dynamics in there. I really, really like it. And I don't have any major issues with it. I think a good mastering engineer will make that work great with the live, because there's also live footage, make it work fantastic with the live footage. So I think, you know, I think that this makes sense. I think this makes sense. I think this is more of a stylistic thing. It would be awkward for me to sort of like give any negative feedback on this or anything constructive, because the reality is like, I think the interpretation works for that effect. I think the integrity of a 70s live band, if this was from the period, this is how the mix would have sounded, is what I'm trying to say. A very genuine, very honest sounding mix. They may have put a little bit more bottom snare into it, but that's about it. Otherwise, I think it's pretty darn good. That's probably one of the only things I would do. I think this is something we always have to talk about, is like, there's no one way to mix something. It's like, what are you going for? What are you trying to achieve? And I think Daniel did an amazing job here. Really, really good. AJ's here. Thank you, Daniel. AJ's here. And he says, AJ, otherwise known as Andrew. Here's my mix of white noise. I haven't submitted much lately. As always, all opinions, our suggestions are welcome. Okay, here we go.
Bring me back to the days of temporary tattoos and screams.
Fantastic work, AJ. Wow, it's really good. Couple of things which I think are mirrored by a number of people here. The thump on the kick is fantastic. It's like super focused, would love to know what it is, but it could come down ever so slightly. It's just a little bit dominant. Just that is really good though. I like it. I think you could maybe put 5% more snap on it, a little tiny bit more snap, and the thump down a little bit, and then the thump would be more felt. I mean, I'm talking like bring the thump down about 1.5 dB and bring up like 2.5, like 1 dB. And I think it would be absolutely perfect. It's just a little, wow, it sounded American, it's just a little bit too much there. So tiny bit less thump on the kick and a tiny bit of crack on it. Other than that, the vocal is just on the verge of maybe needing to be like generally about maybe slightly less than 1 dB up all over. I would spend a little bit of time doing a little bit of automation where it gets slightly lost, but otherwise a really, really good mix. The snare is wonderful. I'm just going to drop in here. Toms are so good. Tiny bit more of the floor there, but the actual tonality on the toms is great. Tiny bit more floor, slightly less on the thump on the kick, a little bit more articulation on that. Snare is fantastic. Vocal just needs like a bit of automation throughout, but subtle stuff. Really great mix. I mean, some of you are probably well aware, in fact, most of you here are consistently here. AJ's also a wonderful drummer, so I'm not surprised that his drum sounds are really spectacular. Yeah, really, really great work. Yep, fantastic. Oh, righty, great work. But can you tell us a little bit about how you got your thump on the kick? Because even though it's very, very slightly loud, it is also fantastic sounding. So we'd love to know, you know, what you did. All right, next up is Ken Hertz, and Ken says, "Hello, Warren and Plapination." Oh, I like that. Plapation. Plapination. This is my mix of Mary Spender's So On Better. I had a lot of fun mixing this one. Getting the low end to sit in nicely was a bit of a challenge, and I hope I was able to pull it off. I did add a little bit of acoustic guitar, fantastic, more so towards the end. I hope you like it. Thanks again for any and all feedback. I greatly appreciate it. All right, great.
Some might say I overshare, like a winter love affair. I was excited, I was wrong. Did you know it wouldn't last long? Someone better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better worthy of a song. I guess I should end this one. I secretly hope that she hears this. Does she know you were fearless? You jumped right in, met me there. When did she make you so scared? Someone better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better worthy of a song. Someone better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better worthy of a song. It must have driven her insane to see you happier. waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. Ooh, someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. Someone better, better come along. I'll be waiting. Someone better, worthy of a song. I guess I should end this one.
Wow, that's a really good mix. That's a really, really good mix. Wow, I really love that. It's the vocals. I like how crisp. I like that additional kind of high end that you've got on there. It's very similar to how I hear the vocal being done. There's moments that maybe it needs a tiny, tiny bit of taming. That just gets a little, just a tiny bit. But on the whole, the overall air and edge on the vocal is really appealing to my ears. I like that edgy kind of vocal. That's why I responded earlier to Alex Khalid's. The low mids were cut, and I was hoping they'd get fuller, but I liked how that had a bit of the edge. I liked the edge on the lead vocal. Really, really nice. Yeah, fantastic work. Wow. I think on the whole, a little bit like the bass. Feel like after listening back to my mix, I wish that I had put some more mid-range on my bass just to hear more of the articulation, because Jamie came up with some really beautiful lines. I don't know if you saw the video that we did on Mary's video, but you see me working a little bit, not all of the whole thing, but see me working on the lines with Jamie and encouraging him to sort of find spaces between the vocal and fill it in. And he did a wonderful job on that. You're bearing in mind this was live in the room, you know. So, yeah, it's really wonderful mix. I feel like a little bit more articulation, you know, maybe some pure mids, 750, 850, 1K, 1.5K, then some 3K-ish area, nice broad, could help just bring a little bit more articulation out from the fingers on the bass. I like the kick. I do like the verb on the drums in general. I'm not in love with it. The first time I heard it, I was like, oh, that's cool. But then I got a little exhausted by the end, and I was like thinking, oh, just with the verb had come down slightly. However, on my mix, I put quite a considerable amount of verb on as well. There was a couple of people commenting on the YouTube video going, oh, I wish there was less reverb on it. So I get it. You know, I think generally speaking, it's a pretty darn good mix. And I like your little acoustic guitar parts at the end. Really, really rather wonderful. It's right up there alongside mine. I mean, I wouldn't be, you know, I wouldn't be critical if that was how my mix first came out. Pretty darn good. Bravo, Ken. Really, really great work. All right. Excellent work, Ken. Next, last but no mean, is my mic's cutting out? Is my mic cutting out on you?
At a moment, you're fine.
What was it? Is I just the way I moved or sat or something?
I'm not sure. It happens occasionally, but it happens and it comes back. It's rare.
It happens, it comes back, but it's rare.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see if I figure out why it is. I might be banging into it or something. All right, last but no means least is Brian. Here's my remix of the cool track Everybody Knows by Christina Holmes Music that blends pop, hip-hop, EDM, and dance and anthem themes. Enjoy the ride. Will do. I'm going to bring it down just because it looks loud, and then we're going to try it from there. Last but no means least, the wonderful Mr. Brian for President.
how it's supposed to be.
Amazing. I just want to hear this again.
Knows, everybody knows.
Oh, yeah.
Knows, everybody knows.
I want that in every song from now on. It's amazing.
Knows, everybody knows.
That's going to be Brian's middle name. Brian for president. Brian for president. That's amazing. Wow. I mean, I'm reading people's comments and I'm listening and I'm like, in a pop music way, yes, there should be more dynamics. It maybe shouldn't pump as much. It shouldn't do this and shouldn't do that. All of those things I agree with. However, it also is amazing in this just hits you over the head, keeps going. Ambient / dance music-y. It's so a thing, a sound. It's fantastic. The timing on the vocals is really good. I know it's something Brian's been working on, and this works perfectly. The timing on the vocals is wonderful. The fact that he's cut it up and made it work like this is amazing. It works with the chord sequences. There's never any rub that bothers me between the vocal and the track. Bravo. Really, really great work, Brian. Really, really great. Can we send a link to Christina, please? Yeah. Okay. Can you do it now? Because sometimes I say this and then we forget. Royal, we forget. Yeah, it'd be really, really good if we can get it off. She'll love this. Really amazing work. Brian, thank you for this. If Brian's watching, and if you can hear out Brian, I think having the tracks and some kind of breakdown on this would be fantastic for the Academy. I think a couple of people have already mentioned that. But yes, that would be absolutely amazing to, to be able to have these tracks to mix as well. Really wonderful work. Really, really amazing. Yep, very impressed. So, another incredible week. Sorry I'm a little under the weather. And those of you that are new, just to remind you, we normally do this on Fridays, hence the Feedback Friday, as opposed to the Feedback Saturday, should be Friday, one day too late. We did 3 days with Clay Blair, recording some Beatles stuff and doing some Beatles recording techniques, which is going to be a lot of fun. Apart from that, we should be back on track. It's Black Friday next week, the day after Thanksgiving, so we'll probably do a pre-recorded one, just so that everybody gets a day off. Do we allow to give them a day off? What do you think? Take a vote. Can Eric have a day off? Answers on a postcard, please. Can Eric have a day off? Well, Blue PS, it's very difficult for me to be here when these things are live. Thank you, Warren, for all that you do to help us. Also, Eric, for being behind the scenes work, and I'm blessed by all of us. Thank you ever so much. Lots of fun. Thank you. Have a marvellous time recording and mixing. And thank you, everybody that participated. Thank you all that take the time to mix these songs and, most importantly, interact with each other and help each other. That's a huge deal. Huge. And it's pretty unique with you guys and girls in this Academy. Thank you for being so incredible and so helpful. And just welcome to the new people. Excited to see more of you here and have a marvellous time recording and mixing. We'll see you all again very, very soon.